Hello there, I'm Wes Blackman, and I'm here interviewing Claudia Jane Klein, who is an artist in Lake Worth, has her own studio in one of the areas west of Dixie, and we're standing in front of one of her works. And Claudia, why don't you tell us a little bit about it, what it's called, and some of the materials you used, and some of the history of it for us.
Okay, hi, I'm Claudia Jane Klein, and this is Paleoflora 1, and it's named Paleoflora from prehistoric vegetation, which was a name that came up that was named by the people who commissioned it, Barbara and Fred Carlisle, and of course with their English and literature background they were able to come up with the best name. Because it is somewhat organic vegetation is what we designed for it, and we designed it together through my sketches for this space that is viewed from the living room, the great room, and they wanted the sound and they wanted the view and some dimension. I mean, all the pieces are three-dimensional, but they are also made to be removed in times of hurricane because they are all fiberglass. And even though that they are, today is in 2014, this piece was installed in 2006. And so they are still, just like new.
Wow.
But to really protect them, they did go through one hurricane, and they are mounted, so it's more of creates more of a relief, but yet it's three-dimensional. And the pieces on the wall, the backdrop pieces, give them a little more depth.
And there's a color difference too.
There's different shades in the blue-greens, dark blue-green, light blue-green, and then the bronze and the rust. And
it reminds me of copper.
There's the rust and the iron and the copper looks to create a metal look. The base coatings on the fiberglass are a coating that I use on a lot of the pieces. It's made from a company in California that uses the actual bronze, copper, metal fibers in the acrylic coating, and then I spray that on with a spray gun, and then when those different layers set, then I spray different color acids. In this case it was green and blue-green acids, and some on the rust. And also there's an iron coating that's the same as bronze that is all made out of iron, so that when you spray acid on it, it rusts.
Oh.
So you're actually really looking at a creative finish. And then on top of that, then it's, a little bit burnished back with like a little bit of steel wool, and 3M pad, and then it's sprayed with a very UV protectant sealing, which is also similar to other, the products that I use. It's a very good lacquer, and then on top of the lacquer, there's also multiple layers of wax. So that keeps it, keeps it looking good, and also allows it to be retouched up with the wax. And there's different color waxes, the brown wax, the blue-green wax, and so that really keeps it.
The structure itself is fiberglass, and did you use a mold to do that, or?
These are all freeform, carved, hand-carved, each one of them hand-carved. And I might mention that the water sources, some of the pieces do have water sources and some of them don't. This is a non-water source, and this flower has a water source. And when they were made, they were routed out, goes along that ring and up through a copper tubing. And it's basically your basic plumbing. These are sprinkler heads up in the top, and you adjust the sprinkler heads for more volume. And then they're glassed right in. For this piece, it was kind of a cross between sculptural, the action, and then still action of having movement and non-movement. And the pods, the water flows down through inside this one, comes down through these rings, and comes in here, and there's a hole in here so that the water doesn't come out here, but comes down here. And this is the fun of being a sculptor and an inventor, is that each piece, whatever I do, is a new thing, and I can press boundaries. And some of the benefits of that is, you know, this excites me, and the challenge of discovery. And this was the first real project I ever did in fiberglass, which I learned and had some help from my husband George, who was working with the boat builder, who also helped me and gave me a studio space big enough to learn and to do and to build the fiberglass and set it up. And this is exactly what's used on the high-end catamarans and boats. It's vinyl foam card, and then multiple different grades of different fiberglass, and then epoxy resin, flood coat, and sanding. And each piece is hand done with different DAs and sanders, which it's very nasty and messy, and it's something that you need to have a big vacation afterwards.
I was going to ask how long did it take for the entire
I would say, I guess we worked on it for almost half a year. And then the pond itself was hand dug out, and we took this, you know, the foam, the great, this is like an expanding foam that bubbles up. And so it made a mold of the foam mold of the hole, took that out, and then made a reverse mold with the fiberglass pond itself. So, you know, the pond was also designed with the sculpture itself.
Is this representative of the typical size of your work?
Actually, there is Paleoflora 2 in existence that is actually about 4 times this size.
Oh my.
And it is also much more dimensional, which was commissioned to me after having seen this fountain. So I am, you know, really great that different people have commissioned me to do different things. And so far, I mean, I can do smaller things, but somehow this went from big to bigger.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that other bigger piece took me a couple years of fitting and doing things, and then adding one piece, and there's many more sources and dimensions.
Right. And this is a private installation, of course. We're at a private home in the Turret Cove neighborhood in Lake Worth. And but you do public installations too, and we're about to go to one that's right in the Triangle Park area by the bridge.
Yes.
In Lake Worth.
The mermaid was commissioned to me by the Lake Worth Street Painting Festival at the time in 2000, when it was just sort of starting, that they wanted to give sort of a kickstart to the city of Lake Worth, the momentum of art in Lake Worth, which didn't really have much art in Lake Worth. And so it was their goal to bring art in and give this as a gift to the city, which I presented a possible model and different ideas of things that they could do, and they chose a mermaid, which we all kind of felt was sort of a representation of the magicalness of Lake Worth. Mermaids are kind of magic. They're not plant animal. They're not male, female. But they're something special.
Well, let's go take a look at some of that magic right now.
Okay.
We'll go look at the sculpture itself.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Good.
I'm with Claudia Jane Klein, and we're at the base of the mermaid sculpture, which is in the Triangle Park at the western end of the Intercoastal Bridge in Lake Worth. And Claudia was the artist for this, and we're just talking about some of the symbolism in the mermaid and the color, and we're a waterfront city, and there's some magic to that.
Yeah, I mean, Lake Worth is definitely a beach town, and when I did come here when I was 24, as I said, on my honeymoon, that this is what we did. We went to the beach and we just, you know, ate at John G's, and life was perfect. It was the most like perfect place, and I had never been to the tropics, so my own inspiration of the beach and the tropics and Lake Worth was like this was like the perfect place, and I always look forward to ever being here as much full time and being able to do art and things that I love. The Street Painting Festival, knowing a lot of those people for a length of time and the efforts that they put out, that they wanted to have something special for Lake Worth. Sort of together we all came up with that this mermaid kind of represented a more special, magical sort of signia of what this community was in terms of its real magic, and that it's not, you know, plant, fish, it's not, you know, human, male, female, it's just some other beautiful species. And so this species sort of, in my mind, sort of was like the most perfect thing for Lake Worth. and so I was more than happy to help donate some of my time and money to help make it. So, and whatever they could raise in grants and funding, they helped me to build it. And so, and they also help, the Lake Worth Street Painting Festival helps maintain it. They pay for the maintenance on it to keep it beautiful in the city.
A little bit more about the location here. We're nestled right between Lucerne Avenue to the north and Lake Avenue to the south here. And this is like a circular lawn area here. There could be the possibility for other sculpture here, you mentioned.
Yes, yes. This particular sculpture, it was up to me to position it, and I think when the architect actually did this original arc, this circle, I think he designed it possibly to have multiple sculptures in it, and there are entryways coming in at different sides of it and different viewing parts, and so my positioning was by the fountain in the front, being that it was the first sculpture to come in. But I can really see that it can really, in the future, really handle multiple sculptures and be a sort of a sculptural destination festival around the mermaid, with the mermaid, you know, and a you know, an event, a public event.
Well, to have other sculpture here, they would almost talk to each other and relate to each other.
Yeah, they like friends.
Well, you do other public installations too, and you have one now that I understand is being bought by the city of Sarasota. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, that was purchased by the city of Sarasota in October. That particular piece was a piece on my figurative group that is all about exercise and improving your life and being, a happiest as you can be. And to me, my sculptures are, things that I feel are important. So these were yoga positions, and they have helped me. Not that I can get into this position, but it is, it was a yoga position, and it did win a competition 3 years prior to it being wanted to be purchased, and it came in second on that purchase award. And then a year or so later, the city of Sarasota asked if it was still available, and then it took about another half a year for them to actually purchase it, and now it is installed in downtown historic district in Sarasota in Shelby 5 Points Park.
Yes, Claudia, we had the pleasure of dropping by your studio last week, and you have some current works in process. What are some of them, and what are some other ideas floating around in your mind?
Well, I'm working on, right now I'm trying to get a piece ready to paint, and it is part of the figurative group, and it's a little bit further. It's one of the bigger pieces I've done. It's probably it's pretty big and 10 feet, and we almost didn't get it out of the studio to have it powder coated, which took 5 people to get it in and out of there. So, and I'm always fighting with the ceiling. So, but it's a figurative piece, leaping in a leap position, leaping over a lot of hurdle-like stuff. And part of the feeling of this figurative piece, in kind of an exercise way of the leap, is in my concept was to, you know, hold on. There's a big ring in there, like, you know, grabbing the gold ring, and very big ring, like 6 feet, and it's grabbing that ring, holding on to your dreams, and leaping over obstacles is my 2014 jumping in.
Well, that's a great metaphor for all of us, I think, sometimes. But Lake Worth, your comment about being restrained by your studio, we just instituted an artisanal industrial zoning district along H Street, which is south of Lake Avenue, that has some garages and some buildings with tall ceilings. I think that would appeal to a sculptor such as you and others.
Yeah, I mean, definitely I have been in the same space I'm in the industrial area, but I have not actually been out to look for other studios recently. So that when, you know, I can maybe afford to have a bigger studio or another space, I would look. Because the higher the ceiling and the more space, the more I can fill it up. So.
Well, you tend toward the monumental, I would say, in your work.
Yeah, it's because everybody has a different capacity. Like jewelers have a very small space to work in, and I tend to have to be able to sort of climb on, you know, and the type of tools that I use are a little bit bigger, and so it's harder for me to scale down than it is for me to build in the scale that I do.
Do you do small maquettes or models before you go to the full
I
size?
do rough maquettes, sometimes out of, you know, really fast out of paper, but and I have done a few finished maquettes for competitions to try to get public work that representational, that have to be a little bit better than my rough sketches.
I see.
But primarily, I can sketch very fast, which is not all that legible to somebody else other than myself, that I know what that shape is, and then just go right into the metal and cut it, and start to build it. And if it is wrong, I just cut it off and change it. You know,
That's part of the creative process.
Yeah, and it's part of that freedom of, you know, changing things. And I have learned, though, that if I am more organized, that I make less mistakes. And if I do view a model, there is really a lot of benefit to that, because you can study it, and then you study it long enough, or you live with it long enough, and you can just watch that angle and you say, I don't like that angle. And then when I actually build it, I won't repeat that angle.
Okay.
Or, you know, something like that. So there is a growth process with art. It doesn't just, you know, it's not like a finite meal that you eat and it's over. It grows.
Well, thank you, Claudia Jane Klein, Lake Worth resident and a Lake Worth artist, showing off her works of art here. And check out her City of Sarasota piece that should be viewable shortly, correct?
No, it's on.
There,
it's definitely there.
Great.
It's definitely installed permanently. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks.